What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope that you are all doing well and staying safe. Today we are going to be talking about the Les Paul Special, and I'm going to give you guys 5 reasons as to why I think that every guitar player should own a Special, or at least a guitar similar to a Special, and we are just going to jump right into it and get into those reasons now. And for reference throughout this video, I'm going to be using this guitar. This is my 2023 Gibson Les Paul Special. This is from their original collection, and this guitar is in TV yellow. But yeah, this is just a standard USA production run Les Paul Special that you can buy right now. So the first reason that I think every guitarist should own a Les Paul Special are the P90 pickups. Now, P90s are technically single coils, but don't think Strat, don't think Tele. These are very different. They use bar magnets, and then they also have additional windings for the wire around the pickups. And the result is really cool. You're getting more of a mid-focused, punchy sound, but the way that I would describe these, I don't really know of a better way, is just they sound fatter than your normal single coil pickup. They're kind of like the in-between between a typical single coil and a humbucker, right? And I think the problem is that a lot of guitarists say, well, I'm going to get a single coil guitar, and then I'm going to get a humbucking guitar, and then I'm all set, right? That's everything that I need. But these are definitely different than your typical single coil pickups. And you'll find that they have a more aggressive sound, but there are just these certain unique characteristics about the sound that you can get from a P90. And, you know, look at Charlie Starr, look at Billy Corgan, definitely look at Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day. These players have harnessed that sound, and they've made these really unique, incredible tones, especially when it comes to, you know, somebody like Green Day. I saw them earlier this year at Rockville, and I had no doubt that at least once, if not multiple times throughout the show, Billy Joe was going to have a guitar, probably a Les Paul Jr. or a Les Paul Special like this one, and it was going to have P90s in it. And he absolutely did, because that's what defines their sound. P90s are loud, they're versatile, they're something that every guitar player should have in their arsenal. The second reason that I think every guitarist should own a Les Paul Special is the large 50 style neck. Now, this is not exclusive to Gibson. A lot of older guitars will have the fat necks, and of course a lot of reissues will have them. And I do want to stress at this point in the video that none of these characteristics are going to apply to every Les Paul Special, right? So you're going to have some that have humbuckers instead of P90s. You're going to have some that have thin necks. But for the most part, they do apply. And if you were to purchase a Les Paul Special right now from Gibson, like this one, the original collection Les Paul Special, it will have the thick 50s neck. So that's what I'm talking about. And just to show you, so you can hopefully kind of see it visually, I have my StewMac tool here. We're just going to press that onto the back of the neck. And if you look here, it may not look like much on camera, but that's actually a pretty thick neck. And as we get lower here, I'll show you here. Obviously, it's going to be wider further down the neck that you get. That's a pretty deep neck. And a lot of players, I feel like they avoid guitars with larger necks, especially if you're like me and you have smaller hands. It just seems to make sense, right? Smaller hand equals smaller neck. But for me personally, I find that just having more space for my thumb, I wouldn't necessarily say that it makes me play better, but it makes me play differently. And I've come to really appreciate having a guitar with a larger neck. It's not always what I'm going to reach for when I want to play guitar, but there is something that I really like about it. And for me, when I first discovered this, it was on an American Original 52 Telecaster. I think it was like a 2010 or 2009 model, something like that. But it had the 50 style baseball bat neck that some of those old Teles and Nocasters had. And it really made me appreciate the larger necks. And I love this guitar. This probably has the largest neck of any guitar that I own, but I really appreciate necks like this. And in my opinion, once you get used to it, you get past that adjustment period, this can be more comfortable than some guitars that I have with thinner necks. It's all just personal preference with this stuff. Now, the third reason that I want to talk about is the top of the guitar, specifically the top of the body. Now, on a traditional Les Paul, you're going to have a maple cap, or Gibson will call it a carved maple top. And essentially what you're looking at is it's going to be a slab of mahogany, just like with this guitar, but you're going to have a additional piece of wood, usually 2 to 3 pieces of maple on the top. And not only is that adding weight, but for me, the biggest thing I noticed with those guitars is just the way the top curves. And so the way your playing hand rests on the guitar it can feel a lot different than a guitar like this. This is more like a Telecaster where you've just got a slab of wood and your hand's going straight down, right? Now, traditional Les Pauls, in my personal opinion, that's one of the most comfortable guitars that you can play, at least for me. And some people may prefer that, and obviously that's fine. But with a guitar like this, especially if you're just coming from playing, a lot of Telecasters and stuff like that, this might be what you're looking for, especially if you don't like Les Pauls. And of course, this is all subjective. This comes down to each individual player and what they like in a guitar. And so at the end of the day, it's all just about comfort and what feels right to you, but you may prefer something like this. Reason number 4 is the stop bar wraparound tailpiece. You'll notice that this is not the traditional bridge setup that you'd find on a Les Paul nowadays. Typically, you'd have a Tune-o-matic bridge, right? So you have a piece that looks a lot like this one, pretty much the same, but then you have another piece of the bridge here, and the strings will go through and sit on the saddles. Now, on a guitar like this is an older design, so the original Les Pauls back in the 50s had this, but this is just this one piece, this stop bar here, being held onto the body, and the strings go through on this side underneath the pickup and they wrap around. The thing about these bridges is that it's really not possible to get spot on intonation. You can definitely get close. I'm sure, in many cases you can get quote unquote spot on, but in terms of ease of adjustment and setting a guitar up, this is much more difficult to attain like that perfect intonation that you're going to get with a guitar like a traditional Les Paul or most modern electric guitars today. Now that being said, it's of course not that these guitars sound bad, it just might be harder to set them up perfectly. So traditional guitar, you're setting intonation, you're usually going to have a screw or something you can manipulate here, and you can move the saddle back and forth and basically just get that string perfect to where if I'm playing my low E, I play open E, and then I play it on the 12th fret and then the 17th fret, and I just make sure that every single one of those notes shows as in tune. You would typically use something like a strobe tuner for this. I use a Polytune. On a guitar like this, I don't have anything to really adjust. Like I can change this screw here, but when I do that, the whole bridge is going to shift. And so yes, I might be able to get, a couple of strings perfect, but because it's going to affect all of them, you usually can't get spot on intonation. It's just something about this older design. Now, going back to my point about the neck, how it makes you play a little bit differently, having the intonation set like this, where you can't get it spot on, that can also make you play a little bit differently. There might be certain spots on the neck where, I don't want to say it sounds egregiously out of tune or anything like that, but it might sound different. And so a lot of people, when they play, especially you got like those twangy players, and you've got to go watch Charlie Starr play, like the way he makes this guitar sound, you can really only get that from a guitar that has a stop bar tailpiece. Now, if that's the only thing that's stopping you from purchasing a special, Gibson does make, or at least they used to make, models that do have the Tune-o-matic setup, so you can definitely buy them without just this wraparound tailpiece if that's your preference. But it's definitely worth noting because 90% of the specials that you're going to find on the market are going to have this stop bar tailpiece. I will say that this is not my preferred setup on a guitar. I do prefer the Tune-o-matic just because you can get the intonation spot on, but I really like having at least one guitar that has this stop bar tailpiece. I think it sounds very unique, and it's something that you're only going to get from a guitar like the Special. And the last reason I want to talk about as to why you should own a Les Paul Special is the price. So obviously you've got the Epiphone models and the import stuff, but even purchasing a USA-made Les Paul Special like this one, compared to Gibson's other offerings, this is a relatively affordable guitar. Now, I know you're going to have people out there on the internet that say Gibson is overpriced and no one can afford them and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, when you look at multiple manufacturers, Fender has actually raised their prices much higher than Gibson has over the years. And Fenders are still more affordable for the most part, especially when you're getting into American-made stuff. It's usually more affordable to get a Fender, and you look at used American-made Fenders on Reverb. I mean, you can snag some of those for $600-700 sometimes, so a lot more affordable than something like this. That being said, this guitar is under $2,000. You can pick one up right now from Gibson for $1799. And that's the full gloss version. They also have a faded version that's a little bit cheaper. But this is the same build quality as something like the Les Paul Standard 50s. Now that guitar sells for $25.99 new. And it's very important to note what you're comparing the guitars to, right? Because yes, you can get a Les Paul Studio or a Les Paul Studio Session, and that guitar is less expensive, but just the way that those guitars are built and how they feel, it's a little bit different. In my opinion, it's not as good as something like this from the original collection. And so this is from the same collection as the Les Paul Standard 50s or the Les Paul Standard 60s, but it's significantly cheaper. Those guitars are coming in at $25.99 for like the plain top versions, and again, this guitar is $17.99. So you're really just saving a lot of money by purchasing a guitar that is really just missing that maple cap on it. And as I stated previously, if even that is out of your budget, that's fine. They make Epiphone models that are very similar to this. They're not quite the same, but they get you really close and you're still going to get that P90 sound, that growl tone. And so I think that overall Gibson has done a pretty decent job of making sure that there's a Les Paul Special that fits every budget, and there's going to be one available regardless of what price point you're looking at. Now, of course, just like with all of their models, there are going to be custom shop variants of this. There's going to be Murphy Lab versions, all that stuff. But really, at the end of the day, this is a workhorse guitar. This is a perfect just throw it in the case and you can gig with it, you can record with it, take it wherever you want. It's a reliable guitar. I've gigged with it many times. I love it. It's just something that I know I can count on. It's, in my opinion, as different as they are, it's Gibson's equivalent to the Telecaster, right? It's your working man's guitar. And so I can't recommend the Specials enough. If you've never played one, do yourself a favor, go out and play one at your local guitar shop. Hopefully go home with it if you can, because these things are just so great. I really think that if you can and you're in a position to, everyone should pick one up, and at the very least go and play a guitar with P90s. What do you guys think of the Special? Do you own one? Do you like it? Do you not? Is there a reason you don't own one? If you don't, just let me know down in the comments, and thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.